Tom was an ordinary man, living a quiet life on the human colony world of Reiner. He worked as an engineer, fixing broken machines, repairing generators, and helping farmers keep their equipment running. Life for him was simple, steady, and without much excitement. He liked it that way. Every morning he woke up early, cleaned his tools, and prepared for another long day of work. But everything changed one bright morning when the sound of heavy footsteps echoed outside his small workshop. At first, Tom thought it was just farmers coming with another broken plow. But when he stepped outside, his heart nearly stopped. Standing before him were tall alien guards dressed in silver armor that shimmered in the light, their strange eyes fixed on him, and they carried long spears that gave off a soft hum. One of them spoke in a voice that was sharp yet calm. "Human Tom, you are summoned by the Queen." Tom blinked, unsure if he had heard correctly. The Queen? The alien queen herself? He had only seen her once from a distance during a festival in the capital. She was a figure of power and grace, someone far beyond the reach of an ordinary man like him. Why would she summon him? He wiped his hands nervously on his work clothes. "I think you must be mistaken," he said carefully. "I am just an engineer. I fix machines, nothing more," but the guards did not move. They repeated, "The Queen requests your presence. You must come at once." Before Tom could argue further, they surrounded him with a respectful but firm stance. He realized he had no choice. His stomach tightened as they guided him toward a waiting carriage made of dark crystal and silver metal. The carriage glided without wheels, floating a few inches above the ground. As the vehicle carried him away, Tom stared out at the colony's fields slowly passing by. Farmers stopped their work to watch, whispering to one another. Some looked at him with wide eyes, as if they believed he had been chosen for something important. Others looked worried, as if they feared he might not return. Tom tried to calm himself by taking slow breaths. Still, questions filled his mind. Why him? Why today? He had no special skills except fixing things with tools and steady hands. What could an alien queen possibly want from him? The ride took him to the capital city, a place Tom rarely visited. Tall towers of silver and blue glass rose into the sky, shaped like twisting trees and flowing rivers. Alien citizens in flowing robes moved through the streets, bowing deeply as the royal carriage passed. Tom sat stiffly, wishing he could disappear into his seat. Finally, they arrived at the palace. The gates were enormous, decorated with carvings of stars, moons, and strange animals Tom had never seen before. The guards led him inside, where cool air brushed against his skin. The halls glowed softly, lit by crystals set into the walls. Everything felt elegant, almost otherworldly, yet strangely quiet. At last, Tom was brought into the grand hall. The ceiling arched high above, painted with constellations. Long banners hung down, each marked with the royal crest. At the far end of the hall sat the throne, carved from white stone and lined with silver. And there she was. The alien queen sat tall and graceful, her crown shimmering like starlight. Her eyes were sharp yet calm, her presence commanding. She wore robes of deep blue that shimmered as she moved slightly. Every person in the hall bowed low, but Tom stood frozen, unsure what to do. The queen raised her hand. "Human Tom," she said, her voice steady but not unkind. "Do you know why I have summoned you?" Tom's throat felt dry. He shook his head slowly. "No, Your Majesty. I am just an engineer. I do not understand why I am here." The queen studied him for a long moment, then gave a small nod. "Good, you are honest. That is why I have chosen you." Tom's confusion grew. Chosen? For what? He wanted to ask but hesitated, unsure if speaking too boldly would offend her. The queen leaned forward slightly, her voice lowering. "My child is in distress. None of my people can calm the baby. Day and night the cries shake the palace, and no healer or guardian has succeeded. But I have heard whispers of your kind. They say humans carry a gift, a strange and gentle way with young ones. I have brought you here to test this truth." Tom stared at her in disbelief. She wanted him to calm a royal baby? Him? A simple engineer who fixed machines and never cared for children? The thought seemed impossible. The queen continued, her eyes narrowing with intensity. "If you can calm my child, I will grant you a reward beyond measure. I will promise you my hand in marriage." The hall went silent. Courtiers stared in shock. Tom's heart raced, his mind spinning. Marriage to the queen? That was beyond anything he had ever dreamed. He opened his mouth, but no words came. He stood speechless before the throne, not knowing whether this was a test, a dream, or the beginning of something far greater than himself. Tom stood frozen in the grand hall, his heart racing faster than ever before. The Queen's words still echoed in his ears. She had promised him marriage if he could calm her child. For a moment he thought he might have misheard, but the shocked whispers of the courtiers confirmed it. Everyone in the room had heard the same thing. The Queen raised her hand and silence filled the chamber again. Her eyes remained fixed on Tom, sharp and searching, as if she wanted to see through his very soul. "You wonder why I would make such a promise," she said, her voice steady but low. "You are not wrong to be surprised. But you must understand, my child is not only my heir but also the hope of my people. If the child cannot be soothed, unrest may grow. Already there are doubts whispered in secret corners." Tom swallowed hard. He felt the weight of her words. The survival of her people rested on a crying baby, and now somehow she thought he was the answer. "I am just a worker," Tom finally managed to say. "I fix machines, tools, and engines. I do not know how to calm alien children." The Queen leaned back in her throne, her gaze never leaving him. "Perhaps, but I have studied your kind. Humans carry strange qualities my people do not. You care for your young in ways that surprise us. You sing to them, you hold them close, you comfort them with soft words. My people do not know this. We are strong, proud, and disciplined. But we are not gentle. This is why I have turned to you." Tom's mind swirled. He remembered stories of his mother humming old earth songs to him when he was small, how her gentle touch had calmed him when nightmares woke him in the night. Could that really be the difference? Could something so simple be what the Queen's people lacked? The Queen's voice grew firmer. "If you fail, no harm will come to you. But if you succeed, you will have my gratitude and I will keep my promise. Now will you accept this task?" Every eye in the hall was fixed on Tom. He felt like the smallest person in the universe, standing under the gaze of a ruler and her court. Yet something in the Queen's words touched him. She had not spoken like a cold monarch. She had spoken like a mother desperate to help her child. "I will try," Tom said softly, though doubt lingered in his chest. The Queen gave a slow nod. "Good. Bring him." The great doors at the side of the hall opened and 2 attendants entered carrying a small bundle wrapped in glowing blue fabric. The baby's cries filled the chamber, sharp and constant, echoing off the stone walls. The courtiers winced at the sound, some covering their ears. Tom's own heart tightened. The baby's cry was unlike any he had heard before. It carried not only sadness but also a strange energy, as if it pulsed with raw force. The attendant set the bundle gently on a small cradle near the throne. The Queen rose from her seat, her robes flowing as she moved. She bent low, her strong hands surprisingly tender as she touched the child's head. For a moment her stern face softened, showing the worry of a mother. "This is my son," she said, lifting her eyes to Tom. "The future of my people. He has not slept in many nights. He cries until his voice grows hoarse and nothing we do can bring him peace." Tom stepped closer, each step heavy with fear and doubt. The baby's skin shimmered faintly as if light passed through it. Tiny eyes, a soft shade of silver, looked up at him for only a second before filling with tears again. The cries grew louder, shaking Tom's chest. He looked back at the Queen. I don't even know where to begin." "Begin as a human would," the Queen said firmly. "Do what your kind would do for their own children." Tom crouched beside the cradle. He had no children of his own, but he remembered caring for his younger cousins back on Earth. He remembered that sometimes all a baby needed was a calm voice. Taking a deep breath, he spoke softly, his voice steady though his heart pounded. "Hey there, little one," he said gently. "It's all right. You're safe." The baby's cries slowed for only a heartbeat, then rose again, piercing and loud. Tom tried again, humming a simple tune, one his mother had once hummed to him long ago. The sound was awkward at first, but soon his voice grew steadier, filling the hall with a soft melody. The baby blinked, the silver eyes catching the light. The cry softened slightly, not gone but weaker than before. A ripple of surprise passed through the court. The attendants glanced at one another, whispering. The Queen's eyes widened, though her expression stayed mostly calm. Tom kept humming, leaning a little closer, speaking softly between the notes. "It's okay. You're not alone." For the first time, the baby stopped crying for several breaths, staring up at him with curious eyes. Then, with a small hiccup, The crying returned, though less fierce than before. The queen lifted her head high, her voice echoing across the chamber. You see it, do you not? There is truth in the whispers. A human can reach him when none of us can. The courtiers shifted uneasily, some bowing their heads, others frowning with doubt, but no one could deny what they had just witnessed. Tom felt his hands trembling. He had not solved the problem, not yet, but he had given the queen hope. He stood back slowly, unsure of what to say. The queen stepped forward, her eyes fixed on him. You have done in moments what my strongest healers could not. You may not yet realize it, but you carry a gift, and I will see this gift tested further. Tom lowered his head, unsure whether to feel proud or afraid. He had come as an engineer, pulled away from his tools, and now he stood in the palace of a queen, cradling the hope of an entire people. And somewhere deep inside, he wondered if his life had just changed forever. The chamber was quiet after Tom's first effort. Though the baby still cried, the sound was weaker now, less sharp than before. The queen's attendants looked at him with wide eyes, as if they had just seen something impossible. The queen herself stood tall, her hands folded, her gaze never leaving the human. You gave him pause, she said firmly. It is more than anyone else has done. This proves the whispers were not lies. You must continue. Tom nodded slowly. He felt nervous, his hands trembling a little. He was no hero, no healer, no singer. He was just a man who worked with machines. Yet somehow he now stood in the heart of a royal palace, being asked to calm a child that no alien could soothe. He looked again at the baby. The small silver eyes blinked up at him, watery but curious. The cries still rose and fell like waves, but every so often they softened when Tom leaned close. He thought about what he knew. Machines worked because of balance. Too much pressure and they broke. Too little and they failed to move. Maybe a child was not so different. Maybe what the baby needed was not force or command, but balance and patience. Taking a deep breath, Tom reached down carefully and lifted the child into his arms. The attendants gasped softly, but no one moved to stop him. The queen raised one hand to calm her people, her expression unreadable. The baby wriggled at first, the cries sharp in Tom's ear. He rocked gently, shifting his weight from side to side, the way he remembered seeing parents do long ago on Earth. He hummed again, this time slower, letting the notes carry softly across the hall. The baby's cries weakened, turning into small whimpers. Tiny hands reached up, clutching at Tom's shirt. For the first time, the child looked directly into his eyes, silent for more than a few breaths. Tom felt his heart twist. In that brief silence, it was as if the world itself had stopped. The court watched. The queen leaned forward and hope filled the air. But then, the silence broke. The child's face wrinkled again and the cries returned, sharp and loud. Tom sighed softly. All right, little one, he whispered. Not yet. I understand. The queen stepped down from her throne, her robes trailing behind her as she approached. She moved with the grace of a ruler, but her eyes showed the worry of a mother. What did you feel? She asked, her voice calm but urgent. Tom shifted the baby gently in his arms. For a moment he listened. He almost calmed, but then it slipped away. I think he wants comfort, but he is not sure how to accept it. The queen studied him carefully, her silver crown catching the light. You speak as if you know his thoughts. Tom shook his head quickly. No, not thoughts. Just feelings. A baby does not think in words. He only knows what he feels. I think he is afraid, the queen frowned. Afraid of what? He is surrounded by guards, by healers, by every protection. Tom looked down at the child. Afraid of being alone. The words were simple, but they struck the queen deeply. She stood in silence for a long moment, her eyes fixed on her child. Then she looked back at Tom. Show me, she said. Show me what a human does when fear touches a child. Tom nodded slowly. He began to hum again, this time choosing a tune softer than before. It was not a song of words, just a gentle rise and fall like waves on a calm shore. He shifted his arms, holding the baby close against his chest. His hand rubbed gently along the child's back, steady and slow. The cries weakened once more. This time the silence lasted longer. The baby gave a small hiccup, then rested its tiny head against Tom's shoulder. The hall grew so quiet that the faint hum of the guards' spears could be heard. The queen's lips parted slightly, her eyes wide. He rests, she whispered. The courtiers murmured in disbelief. Never before had the royal child been this quiet. Some bowed their heads, others exchanged glances, unsure of what to make of it. Tom stayed still, afraid that even the smallest wrong move might wake the child again. He kept humming, steady and low, his voice carrying warmth through the vast chamber. After several long minutes, the baby's breathing slowed. The cries faded into silence. The child closed his eyes, drifting into a light sleep against Tom's chest. Tom froze, hardly daring to breathe. He looked at the Queen slowly, his eyes wide. The Queen's expression softened, her voice quiet but filled with awe. "You did what none of us could. He sleeps in peace." Tom shook his head quickly. "It might not last. It was only a small moment." "Even a moment is more than I have seen in many nights," the Queen replied. She stepped closer, her gaze steady. "Do you know what you have done? You have touched the future of my people." Tom felt heat rise in his face. He was just a man with tools and calloused hands. He had not come here seeking glory or promises of marriage. Yet now he stood with the Queen's heir resting quietly against him. The Queen's voice carried strength again. "You will remain here. You will stay near my son until he is truly calmed. My people may not understand, but I command it. You have a gift, and I will see it used." Tom wanted to argue, to say he was not worthy, but the weight of the child in his arms silenced him. For now, all he could do was hold steady, humming softly, while the Queen of another world looked at him not as a stranger, but as the one person who had given her hope. The palace felt different the next morning. The wide halls, once filled with sharp echoes of the baby's cries, now held a softer calm. The attendants moved more quietly, as if afraid to disturb the new peace. Guards still stood tall with their silver spears, but their eyes often drifted toward Tom with curious stares. Tom himself sat in a small chamber near the Queen's throne room, the royal baby resting in his arms. The child slept more soundly now, though not perfectly. Every so often small cries rose, but Tom's voice or touch seemed enough to soothe them. He could hardly believe it. One day ago he was fixing a broken water pump in his workshop. Now he was in the royal palace, holding the air of another species. The Queen entered quietly, her long robes trailing across the polished floor. She moved closer, her sharp eyes softening as they fell on the child. For a long moment she said nothing. She simply watched her son sleep peacefully against the human's chest. "You have given me a gift," she said finally, her voice low but clear. "I did not believe such a thing was possible. Yet here he rests." Tom shifted uncomfortably, his calloused hands adjusting their hold. "I am not doing anything special. I am only holding him, the way we humans would hold our own." The Queen studied him carefully. "That is what makes it special. My people do not hold our children in this way. We do not sing or whisper to them. We give them protection, food, and guidance, but not this. Not warmth." Tom blinked, surprised. "You never hold them close?" She shook her head. "We believe strength must be built early. Too much closeness, too much softness is seen as weakness." Her eyes lowered to the child. "But now I wonder if we have been wrong." Tom looked down at the baby, who gave a small sigh in his sleep. "I don't think it's weakness. A baby doesn't know about strength yet. He just needs to feel safe." The Queen's gaze lingered on Tom, her expression unreadable. Then slowly she nodded. "Perhaps humans understand something we have forgotten." The moment stretched quietly, filled only with the sound of the baby's breathing. Tom felt the weight of the Queen's eyes, but also something else. Respect, maybe even gratitude. Later that day, the Queen invited him to walk in the palace gardens. The baby was carried gently in his arms, wrapped in soft cloth. The gardens were unlike anything Tom had seen. Trees glowed with faint blue light. Flowers shimmered like glass, and streams ran clear as crystal. Birds with silver feathers flew overhead, their calls bright and melodic. As they walked, the Queen spoke. "When I promised marriage as a reward, it was not said lightly. My people believe in vows of honor, yet I see now that what you have done cannot truly be repaid. How do I reward a man who brings peace to my child?" Tom almost stumbled. He had tried not to think too much about her promise, but hearing her speak of it so calmly made his heart pound. He shifted the baby carefully, buying himself a moment to answer. "Your Majesty, I don't need any reward. I only wanted to help." The Queen tilted her head slightly, her crown catching the light. "And yet you will be honored. Whether you wish it or not, my people will not forget this." Tom didn't know what to say. He felt small walking beside her, not because of her height, but because of the weight of her presence. She was more than a ruler, she was a mother, and in her eyes he could see the depth of her worry and her hope. The baby stirred and began to fuss again. Tom stopped under a glowing tree, rocking gently and humming a slow tune. The cries softened, and the child clutched at his shirt, resting again. The Queen watched with wide eyes. Every time he turns to you, he knows your voice, your touch. There is a bond forming. Tom nodded slowly. He felt it too. The baby was no longer just the Queen's heir. He was becoming someone Tom cared for deeply, in a way he had not expected. That night, when Tom prepared to leave the child in the care of the attendants, the Queen stopped him. "Stay," she said firmly. "Remain close to him. He rests better when you are near." So Tom stayed, sitting in the quiet chamber as the baby slept. He thought about the strange turn his life had taken. A simple human worker, now tied to the fate of a royal child. Hours passed, and Tom drifted into light sleep in the chair. When he opened his eyes, the Queen was standing nearby, watching silently. "You did not leave his side," she said softly. Tom rubbed his tired eyes. "I promised to help." The Queen's gaze held his for a long time. Then she said, "You are not like my people. That is why you succeed where we fail." Tom felt something stir in his chest, though he could not name it. Respect, connection, or perhaps the beginning of something more. As the baby slept between them, human and alien stood in silence, bound by a child's fragile peace. Days passed in the palace, each one slowly building a rhythm around the human and the royal child. Tom's mornings began with the soft light of the palace garden spilling into the nursery. The baby stirred, blinking his silver eyes, and Tom would greet him with a gentle hum, rocking him carefully in his arms. The courtiers grew accustomed to the sight. The nobles who had opposed him now observed quietly, some even smiling when the child quieted in his care. It was clear to everyone, the human had a connection no alien could match. The Queen entered the nursery one afternoon. Her long robe swirled softly as she moved, her crown glinting in the light. She paused when she saw Tom holding the child. For a long moment, she simply watched. "He sleeps," she said finally, her voice calm but filled with emotion. "He rests because of you." Tom lowered the baby carefully into a cradle, keeping his hands near in case the child stirred. "He is sleeping better," he said softly. "I think he trusts me." The Queen stepped closer, her eyes fixed on him. "It is more than trust. You have given him peace. No one else could have done this. I promised you a reward if you succeeded, and that promise remains." Tom swallowed hard. He had tried not to think about her words, but hearing them again made his heart race. "Your Majesty, The Queen held up a hand to silence him. "Do not speak yet. I want you to see the truth of what you have done." She called 2 attendants who brought forward a small council of elders and advisors. Each bowed deeply, then stepped aside as the Queen approached Tom. "You have earned more than admiration," she said, her voice strong. "You have earned my vow. I promised marriage if you could calm my child. That promise is now mine to give." The hall fell silent. Tom felt his heart pound. He had not imagined that a simple task of comforting a child could lead to such an honor. He lowered his gaze, unsure of what to say. The Queen continued, her voice carrying across the chamber. "This is not only a gift for you, but a lesson for my people. You have shown that kindness, patience, and understanding are as powerful as strength or command. You have taught us a truth we had forgotten." Tom blinked, feeling a mix of pride and disbelief. He had only tried to help. He had only listened, held, and soothed. And yet the Queen spoke as if his simple actions had changed the future of her entire kingdom. She stepped closer, placing a hand gently on his shoulder. "Do you understand what this means? Not only do you have my promise, but you have my respect and the respect of all who have witnessed this. You are not just a visitor in our palace. You are part of our family now." Tom felt his throat tighten. He had never imagined anything like this. He had been an ordinary man, fixing machines, living quietly. Now he stood in a palace, honored by the ruler of another world, recognized for something he had thought was small and ordinary. The baby stirred in the cradle, letting out a tiny sigh. Tom leaned closer, rocking the child gently. The small silver eyes opened, focusing on him. He hummed softly, and the child's eyes closed again, resting peacefully. The Queen watched, her expression softening. "See, he knows you. He trusts you. That bond cannot be broken by anyone else. It is yours to nurture." Tom felt a warmth spread through him. The child's small hands rested lightly on his chest, and he realized that he had grown to care for this little being more deeply than he expected. The Queen's promise now felt real, but it was not the reward that mattered most. It was the trust, the connection, the understanding between human and alien child. The Queen turned to the court, her voice ringing with authority. Let it be known that this human has earned a place in the palace not by strength nor by status, but by the gift of care. Let all remember that kindness and patience hold power beyond measure. The courtiers bowed deeply, some smiling, others nodding with respect. Tom stood quietly, unsure if he deserved the attention. The baby stirred again, and he lifted him gently, humming once more, letting the small hands clutch at his shirt. Later that evening, the Queen returned to the nursery alone. She watched silently as Tom rocked the child, her eyes soft and thoughtful. "You have brought peace to my home," she said finally. "You have changed the future of my people. I will keep my promise. You have my word." Tom nodded slowly, still cradling the sleeping child. "I only wanted to help," he said quietly. The Queen smiled, a rare and gentle expression. "And yet what you have done is far greater than you realize. You have shown that even the smallest actions, the softest words, can carry power beyond imagination. You have bridged worlds with your care." As night fell, Tom settled the baby into the cradle one last time before resting nearby. He hummed softly, feeling the bond between him and the child grow stronger with each passing moment. Outside, the palace was calm, the guards vigilant but relaxed. Inside, human and alien shared a quiet peace, bound by trust, care, and the promise of a future shaped by understanding and kindness. The Queen watched from the doorway, her eyes full of pride and quiet awe. She knew that what Tom had done could never be undone. The child would grow knowing the gentle strength of a human heart, and the world of her people had changed forever. The palace was quiet that morning, the soft light spilling across the marble floors. Tom sat near the nursery window, the baby resting peacefully in his arms. The child's small silver eyes blinked slowly, focusing on him, then closing again in calm sleep. The Queen entered, her long robes flowing gracefully. She smiled gently, a rare warmth in her expression. "He sleeps," she said softly, her eyes on the child. "Thanks to you, Tom." Tom shifted slightly, holding the baby closer. "He trusts me," he said quietly. "I think he knows I won't let him fall." The Queen's smile deepened. "Yes, and that trust is not given lightly. You have earned it, and with it my promise remains. You have my word that you will remain by our side, honored and respected." Tom felt a mix of pride and disbelief. Just days ago he had been a simple engineer, working quietly on machines. Now he was part of a royal household of another species, recognized for his care and patience. More than that, he had touched the life of the future of an entire world. The baby stirred, letting out a small gurgle. Tom hummed softly, rocking him gently. The child's eyes opened again, focused on him, and he smiled faintly, his small hand clutching Tom's shirt. It was a quiet, fragile bond, but one that felt stronger than anything Tom had ever known. The Queen approached, watching closely. "You have not only calmed my child," she said, "but you have changed the way my people see humans. They have learned that strength is not only in power or skill, but also in patience, care, and understanding." Tom looked up, unsure how to respond. I never meant to teach anyone," he said softly. "I only wanted to help him." The Queen's eyes softened. "And yet you have taught much. You have bridged worlds, human and alien alike. That is no small thing." Outside the nursery, the courtiers moved quietly, aware of the moment. They had watched in awe as Tom's gentle care had transformed the royal household. Where once they doubted, now they understood. Humans carried qualities they had never appreciated: warmth, gentleness, and a natural understanding of the smallest beings in the world. The Queen stepped closer to Tom, her voice quiet but full of meaning. "You have my promise, Tom. I have promised marriage, and I will keep that vow. Not for duty, not for ceremony, but because of what you have shown. You have the heart of a protector, a caretaker, and a true companion. That is why I will honor my word." Tom's heart raced. He had not imagined that a simple act of care could lead to such honor. He looked down at the baby, feeling a deep sense of responsibility and affection. The child had come to depend on him, and he felt he could not let that trust go. The Queen watched quietly, her expression thoughtful. Then she spoke again. You have also given me something more than I expected. You have reminded me that even a ruler, even a queen, must rely on care and trust as much as strength and command. You have shown me a better way to guide my people and protect my child. Tom nodded slowly, still holding the baby. I only listened to him, he said. I only tried to understand what he needed. And that is enough, the queen replied. Enough to change lives. Enough to teach lessons that words alone could never convey. For the first time, Tom felt a calm confidence. He realized that what he had done was not magic, not skill, not luck. It was something simple, something human. Care, patience, and understanding. These things had bridged the gap between species, brought peace to a restless child, and created trust that would last a lifetime. The baby stirred once more, reaching up toward Tom's face. He smiled faintly, a tiny gesture but full of meaning. Tom laughed softly, a warm sound in the quiet room. Yes, he whispered. I'm here. I won't let you fall. The queen moved to stand beside him, watching silently. She placed her hand lightly on his shoulder. You have done more than calm a child, she said softly. You have built a future. You have brought humans and aliens closer, and you have earned my trust, my respect, and my promise. That is the beginning of something greater. Tom looked down at the baby, then at the queen. A quiet understanding passed between them. He was no longer just a visitor in a distant palace. He was part of a family, part of a world that had once seemed beyond reach. As the day passed, the child slept peacefully in Tom's arms. The palace was calm, the courtiers respectful, and the queen at ease. Outside, the gardens glowed softly in the afternoon sun, the streams and flowers reflecting the harmony inside. For Tom, the moment was simple but perfect. He held the child, felt the warmth of trust, and knew that he had truly made a difference. The queen's promise was not just a reward, it was a symbol of respect and understanding. And in that quiet palace, on a distant world, human and alien shared a bond that would shape the future. Through care, patience, and trust, they had built something stronger than any power or command. They had built connection. As night fell, Tom stayed near the child, humming softly. The queen watched from the doorway, a quiet smile on her face. The palace was peaceful, the child at rest, and Tom finally understood the true meaning of his journey. It was not just about calming a baby. It was about building trust, bridging worlds, and finding a place in the heart of another species. It was a new beginning for all of them.